The most successful Formula 1 team during the São Paulo Grand Prix, Alpine, secured a double podium with Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly finishing P2 and P3, respectively. This achievement boosted their position to P6 in the Constructors' Championship. But Alpine has finally dropped the shocking news that they are cutting ties with Renault engines in 2026 instead. They have opted to follow the path of Mercedes Formula 1 engines, just as Mercedes, McLaren, and Williams Racing are currently doing. Now, going back to first instance, when Alpine hinted towards their departure from Renault engines, it was a month back exactly on the 30th of September, when they released a press issue stating that plans for a so-called hypertech transformation project that will include their Formula 1 power unit department ceasing operations at the end of next year. Alpine's F1 program is currently split across two factories: the chassis-focused division in Enstone in the UK, and the engine-focused division in Vire-Châtillon, France. Enstone will therefore become the heart of Alpine's F1 efforts moving forward, incorporating a yet-to-be-announced engine supply arrangement for the 2026 regulation changes, following on from talk of a potential deal with Mercedes. Throughout all this chaos between the different Alpine departments and negotiations with Renault, F1 engine continue to deteriorate because of the usual poor performance of the car and incomplete communications between the programs. At the end, Alpine decided to secure a deal with Mercedes to run the German manufacturer's power unit from 2026 until at least the end of 2030. It was a shock for everyone, including Renault themselves, because they never thought that their multi-year Alpine and Renault's French collaboration would ever disintegrate. But here we are. Alpine has finally decided to leave Renault engines, marking an end of an era. Formula 1 without Renault. Their history of success as an F1 engine manufacturer going back to the 1970s, when it pioneered turbocharged engines. Fernando Alonso won the Drivers' Championship with the Works Renault team in 2005 and 2006, and the French company supplied title-winning engines for teams like Benetton, Williams, and Red Bull. The last driver to become champion with the Renault engine was Red Bull's Sebastian Vettel in 2013. But Renault's F1 presence has undergone a total change in the 10 years since the current V6 hybrid turbo power unit regulations were introduced. But moving on to the specifics of this upcoming Mercedes and Alpine deal, also involves taking a supply of their gearbox from the start of 2026. Those sources say Alpine are planning on producing their own gearbox in-house at Enstone from 2027. Alpine will continue to manufacture their own power units through the 2025 campaign before switching in 2026, when sweeping new power unit rules that feature a greater focus on the battery and use of 100% sustainable fuels will be introduced. The French team said in a short statement, the multi-year agreement will see Mercedes-Benz supply Alpine with power units for the duration of the new regulations era. From 2026 until at least 2030, the team remains focused on performing in the strongest way possible in the 2024 and 2025 seasons. The gearbox arrangement means Alpine will use Mercedes' rear suspension as well. However, Alpine is keeping its options open and will explore producing its own gearbox and rear suspension from 2027. This would replicate the McLaren customer arrangement with Mercedes, which confers an advantage in how much control the team has on designing a performance-critical part of the car, rather than the full rear-end supply that Aston Martin and Williams have. Alpine is tooled up to do that because it has been producing its own gearbox and rear suspension while operating as a works team. It has also invested recently in a new gearbox dyno, so while the Mercedes arrangement could continue with the engine and gearbox for the duration of the deal, it makes sense for Alpine to explore how to tailor its customer engine supply to the facilities and expertise that already exist in Enstone. This deal will be much cheaper for Alpine rather than developing its own power unit, and it will hope it can follow a similar path to McLaren, which has effectively usurped its engine partner in F1's competitive order this year. But it also takes away some of the freedom to develop Alpine had previously and means it is beholden to the engine Mercedes produces with little chance to change it. That's always a risk in a new rules era. So there are pros and cons to the move. When asked about this shocking change from Alpine, Ole Oaks, the team principal, said these changes are part of a long-term journey. Building trust, continuity, and steady progress will be essential as the team aims to rise through the ranks in the increasingly competitive world of Formula 1. Alpine had the fourth best car as recently as 2022, but multiple changes of management and a struggle for the Enstone factory to work effectively alongside the engine group in France has culminated in a disappointing run for the team. Although the upgrades it has brought this year have been effective, as Alpine's new direction also highlights the evolving dynamics of F1's engine market. In an era where manufacturers are seeking more efficient and powerful solutions, partnerships like these allow smaller teams to focus on other aspects of vehicle design and team strategy without the immense investment required for independent engine development. The collaboration with Mercedes allows Alpine to direct its resources more strategically, freeing up budget and engineering capacity that can now be invested in areas like aerodynamics, driver development, and operational efficiency. With a well-respected engineering powerhouse like Mercedes now supplying Alpine, the team stands poised to make substantial progress. While the partnership's on-track impact will only be clear after 2026, Alpine's proactive approach signals an exciting future for fans and a competitive challenge for the rest of the grid. But does this all mean permanent end of Renault in Formula 1? I don't think so, because we cannot just ignore the fact that Renault is not your average rich wannabe engine manufacturers. They once were world championship caliber manufacturer. But recently, after the double Alpine podium in Interlagos, we clearly witnessed the true power of Renault engines. They were fast and efficient. I think if Mercedes failed to provide Alpine with the right engine output and gearbox promises, we may see the legendary return of Renault back in Formula 1. But until then, we should look up to the future for what this new F1 partnership can deliver in terms for the team, drivers, and the fans.